Good evening. Welcome to the October 6th meeting of the Town of Standish Planning Board. The meeting will now come to order. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are offered. Please notify me if you are unable to hear or to see the material. The board works from a prepared agenda. This evening we have two finding of facts to approve, the minutes of the previous meeting, no old business. We have 4 new items of business. Just those out here. First item will be Pine Tree Estates. The second item will be Yates Builders on Cram Road. The third item will be P.E. Rubrum on Bonnie Eagle Road, and that's a solar farm. And the last item will be Westerly Way for a 3-lot subdivision. We have a full board this evening, so we have a full complement quorum. We have no miscellaneous hearings that I'm aware of. As we approach 9 o'clock, we'll evaluate our timing and determine whether or not we're going to be able to have all of the new items of business. And as we move into the public hearing on each section, we're going to ask people to limit their presentation to 3 minutes if they can, just because we have a large contingency of people here. The applicant has the burden to prove to the board that their application is complete and meets all applicable town standards. Any person wishing to address the board may do so in accordance with the following procedures. And please utilize the podium or one of the provided microphones. First, the board will open the public hearing for the applicant to present their project. Then the town planner will provide his assessment of the project and hear responses from the applicant. Board members will then ask questions and hear their responses. The hearing will be open to the public for comment, and the applicant can respond to those comments. 5, the board may receive any oral or documentary evidence, but such evidence is restricted to subject matter of the agenda item. The board shall exclude irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious evidence. 6, citizens shall refrain from interrupting other speakers. This meeting is being tape recorded, and it is very difficult to hear what is being said when multiple people speak at the same time. Citizens shall avoid personal attacks and conduct themselves in a civil, courteous manner as expected by all participants. 7th, all questions should be addressed through the chair. Speakers should not attempt to engage in debate with other meeting participants. And 8th, upon hearing from the public, the hearing will be closed for the application, and the board will deliberate and vote on the application. Following the decision on the application, either towards the end of the meeting or at the board's next regular meeting, the board will prepare a written finding of facts and approve them for the records. First item on the agenda this evening is the minutes of the September 8th Planning Board.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes from September 8th meetings as presented.
I'll second it.
Moved by Todd, seconded by Frank. Comments by the board?
Abstain, so it wasn't there.
Seeing none.
Me as well.
Abstain, and Carolyn as well.
All those in favor? We have 5, 2 abstain. Next item on the agenda is finding of facts. We have 2 of them. First one is for Grondin Aggregate LLC, and that was for a blasting permit extension, and that is at their property on Middle Road, 295 Middle Road. The second item was the Orchard Road Solar LLC, and that is at the end of Rose Lane. We'll have a chance to review these. Is there a motion to accept?
There's a motion to accept findings of fact. Do you want to do them together, Mr. Chair, or you want to do them separately?
I don't have any issues on either one. I can do them together. Board members? See if we have a concession to do them both.
I make a motion we approve both findings of fact as presented together.
I'll second.
Sean seconded. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5 and 2 abstain. Sign these, get this done. Ten, 6. All right, the next item on the agenda is Pine Tree Estates, 580 Osby Trail West, map 5, 6, 75, lots 32, 33, 38, and 15. Site plan application for 97 new homes. Is the applicant here and like to make a presentation?
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. My name is Bill Anderson. I'm an Admiral Development Consultants for the owners. We also have our local engineering and environmental consultants in our ownership, so if there's any questions, we have our team that can address them. So we're happy to be here. I think we were here in 23, so it's been a little bit. So I'll give a quick historical summary and then a little overview on the plan, and then we'll just open it up. Move to the next slide. That'd be a deal. Zoning Board of Appeals, that is part of the process for manufactured home expansions. So this one actually had an approval in '09. The current owners purchased the property in '19. We went in '21, made some minor changes, and went and got approval in '22 to the Zoning Board of Appeals in the latter part of '22. Hence, we proceeded to the Planning Board in '23 with the plan featuring our expansion plans with home sites at 60-foot frontage width. We progressed through your third-party reviews and was getting through that, and we had the problem came up with the 60-foot frontage. It was ultimately denied by town council. So we started back over and went back to the Zoning Board of Appeals with our current plan, which is before you tonight, which is featuring home sites of 100-foot frontage width. We got approved by your Zoning Board of Appeals, which again looks at a whole bunch of factors regarding the project and approved us in August. So we're glad to be back with you with a revised plan. So I'll show you. All of them look pretty similar historically. The lot sizes have been the biggest component. If you look at that, we have, in the gray is our existing homes. We have 224 existing home sites. About half of the existing home sites are with the 60-foot lot clustered, and about half of them are about the size that we're talking about tonight. As far as the expansion area goes, we have 166 acres of developable property. When we're done with the expansion, we should be having about 118 acres of open space. Again, we're proposing 97 proposed home sites. There's 28 in that western area, and that leaves about, 69 in that eastern loop area. We'll have engineered septic fields for the expansion, similar to what's out there for the existing facility. And then we're looking at the community well system, expanding that for the addition. Well, half of these home sites will cater to the active adult, which is, we know, is a pretty big need in this community. So we're committed to half the home sites will be reserved for the active adult. I guess the other big thing I'd tell you about this plan, if you look at it, besides having the larger lots, all about 87% of them, except for 13 of them, back up to open space. So it's really going to be nice private living out there in the community when these lots are done. Next slide. Again, just a quick comparison to our previous, the current plan has got the 97 home sites at 100-foot frontage, which is 36 less home sites than was previously approved by the ZBA, which had 133 and was before you. The current plan actually equals or reduces the limits of disturbance than the previous plan. And important to say, this plan meets all your standard zoning regulations. It's explicitly an allowed land use, so that'll be important. Again, this plan was approved by your ZBA on August 18th. Next slide. I will highlight the biggest change associated with our plan set, which is the home site itself, land use area. The lot sizes are 100-foot width minimum, 120 deep minimum, making it a 12,000 square foot home site. Front setbacks 20 from the road, and so on. So pretty nice yard site. Again, all but 13 of the 97 will back to open space as well. So again, it's going to feel nice with these home sites. Next slide. I think I just show a couple of examples. Like I said, about half the homes out there have the larger lot size. These are some examples of really the existing community. Give you a little flavor about how it'll look and feel. I think that is it. Yeah, actually that's a pretty nice aerial of the community as well. It's a beautifully developed, mature community and very successful, and we're excited to get things completed and move forward with the expansion. So we're here to answer any questions you might have. Our goal today would be to get any planning feedback you folks had, and I think there's some technical engineering items we got to get, but I'd like to get everything out on the table and understand where we're at. Ideally approved with the need to finish the technical matters with the engineer. That's what I have. Thanks.
Scott, you have any feedback for us?
There, as you said, review is ongoing, and we just got the lion's share of the engineering comments back over the weekend here, so I think Jackie might have printed out copies for you to have right here tonight. Now, I don't expect you to be reading those here tonight, obviously, but the applicant has those now, and they can start working on a response to those. For the most part, as I said, we've seen a lot of this before. I know a couple of you are new from when this was reviewed before. And I think we should treat tonight largely, as the applicant just said, as a introduction to the project and to make sure that all questions that you have, any more information that you need, can be ferreted out here and given to the applicant so they know what they need to meet. And then we can finish up the engineering review, get all that information that you as the board want to see put together, and hopefully finish this up at the next meet time this comes before you. Again, no real red flags from staff perspective. I don't have any formal written comment from public safety, but I have talked to them about it. They don't see any issues with this design. They helped lay this out at the last time this was being worked out with the access road and all of that. So I don't see any major issues there. I think we mostly just need a little more information on the engineering, on the septic, and we will be in good shape. I guess the one other question for the board tonight is, I know we did a site walk of this back in 2013, and a couple of you are new, so we're on that. If the board wants to have a site walk, we should get that scheduled.
And the applicant has your memo, so they know the items that you highlighted that have to be addressed. Board members.
Sorry, since as Scott brought up, two of my biggest concerns are, one is about the performance guarantee. But the case is that the reason I'm very focused on the septic and will be very looking at it fairly closely is because of the proximity of Pine Tree Estates to the Watchick Lake area. It's a watershed. It's one of our protected watersheds. It's less than a mile. Sorry, although I'm not in the Standish Kiwanis Club anymore, for 20 years, we used to have people walk over for fireworks and the rest of it. it's a very short distance from Pine Tree Estates. So I know that there's comments in there and they're working on it, but septic design, and that concerns me greatly because literally it's a very flat piece of land, and the Watchik, lake area is one of those things where any kind of septic issues or things like that can really impact in a sense, the watershed in that area, but as well as the homes in the Watchik Lake area. It's not a minor concern, but that's my major concerns, and yeah, I'd love to do a site walk because it's been a while since I was walking around that area.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Carolyn?
My biggest concerns are, the last time this came before us, we heard from many residents within the existing park that there were some issues that definitely affected the public health, health and safety. We heard that there were water issues where people had lost their water. I think they said 4 times in the last year, that they had a rat infestation, there were sewer issues. We heard from several people that came up, not only before this board, but before the council. And I would like us to look at this not just as a review of the systems for the new section being proposed, but also for the systems that are there already. Because I see that there's 2 existing wells that they reference with only 1 new well for the 97 new homes. I just don't, I would hate to have us just look at the new engineering for that part without looking at the overall engineering that we heard was so problematic from so many residents.
The applicant can tell us whether all the new lots are on the new well or whether they're somewhere on the old wells.
Yeah, sure. And the system's been functioning well. We've actually improved our communication system out to the residents, and it's been some time since we had a break in our system. We've added a lot of gate valves in there as well, which will help us isolate if and when we do have breaks, those do occur. Our intention is to extend the existing system and add probably some pump upgrades to the existing well and potentially some storage as well. There's actual capacity with the existing wells, but we are going to make some system improvements for the expansion. We have a third-party water system designer, Horizontal Engineering, which will work with our civil consultant, and all that will get permitted at the state level. So we'll be sure the system will be sufficient for not only existing parks, but the proposed expansion before we start.
So will they be isolated? Will some of those be on the new well and others
Nope,
on the existing?
they'll all be, it's going to be one shared system, yep. Yeah, septic will be separate septic. The waters, you want the bigger system with looping and all that, better redundancy, so.
I have a related question. Can you explain a bit, what is your process to manage the water system? Who does it? How do you manage the water system, public water system per state requirements? How do you do that? Who does that?
Patrick might have to help me with the name, but the state requires a state certified operator.
Yeah.
It's not us. We hire a gentleman. They're in charge of testing and maintenance and all that. So we have a certified operator, probably get you that name. And then if we need service on the system itself, we have a contractor on call that's a certified plumber. And I can get you that name as well.
So who ensures that the water testing regimen per the Clean Water Act?
The certified operator.
The certified operator?
Yep. And if there isn't, you can always check your state databases and make sure your system's in compliance. So but I I will, I'll get you the names of the,
And I don't wanna rehash everything, 2 years ago, but if you could give me a quick synopsis, what is different today with either the existing system and of course the new system? What is different today than what we heard 2 years ago? A year ago, there were a lot of disgruntled people 2 years ago. I say a lot, 5 or 6 that were in the audience.
yeah.
What's different today than it was then?
And that's good to have that relative scope, 5 or 6 of 224 residents. It's a nicely run community, it's a beautiful community. If you haven't been through there, I'd ask you to go through that. And there was, I think it was a combination of things too, right? There was some trees they wanted trimmed. We had a rat infestation with a resident that didn't take their trash out, so we dealt with that. We've done a lot of that cleanup from the buzz you might have heard in 23, right? As far as water system, what I've told you is we've changed our contractor. I think we've upgraded our contractor, if you will, and we've also implemented a better communication system with our residents in regards to if there is an outing, where is it? Because there's a protocol, right? If we lose pressure, you gotta identify the leak, you have to issue a boil of water to the affected folks, and then you gotta get them up and when you get your water back, you have to test it, make sure it's chlorinated and safe, and then you use it again. We've clarified that process, better identified that process. For
Is
our
the
residents.
licensed operator that you're using today the same one you used 2 years ago? Or is it a different operator?
New contractor, I don't know if it's the same operator, I think it is, yes. Which is, we didn't have an operator problem. We've improved our contractor that services our community for us. And like I said, we've installed a lot more valves to better isolate the system as well.
Okay. And lastly, I guess I'll switch to septic. Who will manage the septic system? I know we don't have a design yet for the new one, but who manages that? How does that work?
We're in charge of operating and maintenance of it. I don't know the operator that does the scheduled cleaning for those. We can figure that out. I'll get you that answer.
Who monitors the operation day in and day out, that the system
Is
is
that a
working?
certified operator, Jason, do you know, for the state?
Yeah.
On the septic side?
Jason Mathias, Atlantic Resource Consultants / Fernandez. So the septic systems, yeah, so they get, the park staff monitors those as part of our septic designs. We have done inspections on those systems. So you're all familiar with septic systems, I'm guessing you all have one at home, considering we don't have a sewer district in Standish. So how do you operate your septic system, right? You get any tanks that are out there get pumped on an interval. We don't know what that interval is, but as far as the septic goes, those soils out there are really good for septic systems. I don't anticipate there ever having been a septic issue out there. We've never seen anything in the just 3.5, 4 years that we've been working with them out doing. We've designed septic systems all over this park and moved them, and everything out there looks good. So as far as oversight, like say there are other parks in the state where they do have septic system issues, and then what you typically see there is breakout, and then they notice that fast, they get someone like us involved, start pumping the tanks, those types of things. But at this site, there's no known or historic septic issues that we've come across.
Well, certainly there's a difference between a residence with 2 people using a septic system as opposed to.
Yeah, but in the design though, there really isn't. It's just a giant septic field. So instead of having a 20 by 30 septic field, you have 200 by 300 septic field with
They have a
distribution boxes.
maintenance agreement with somebody to keep the tanks pumped and cleaned and.
That will probably be an MDEP site law condition, so that will get added in because remember, there's a bunch of concurrent processes here. So we're before you for site plan subdivision. We're also with MDEP under site location, which is their most thorough review. So we're getting a groundwater review from a state geologist there. We're having nitrate analyses done. we can provide that as part of your, will be provided as part of the final application here as well.
Along with those septic systems, so I mentioned, we're very concerned with the water. Do we know which way the groundwater is flowing here? Is it flowing towards Watchet or towards the South River?
So I might sound like a complete idiot, but everything, you see that green areas on the map, those are giant, wetland, sort of not forested wetlands. So all of the new septic designs, go through the ground, and then the nitrate analyses will show that they go into these large wetland systems, which is the best place.
So flowing southwesterly.
So it's flowing southwesterly into the big bog that's below it.
That's all I had, Charlie. No?
My turn.
Andrew?
The Old Down Road, is that gonna be open to pedestrians and bicyclists? Or is it just gonna be completely gated off except for emergency services?
Our intent would be to have a gate so no vehicular,
Yeah.
but I don't know that we would prohibit or stop somebody from walking it.
Right. Can you talk about, how many staff you have now for the park and then how many would be added for the expansion?
Currently, the staff is one community manager with 2 maintenance staff. Those report to our local regional manager, and it is likely we'll add office staff and maintenance technicians to that.
What about like who does the landscaping?
Typically, it's either maintenance staff is doing the
Maintenance,
common
okay.
area
Yeah.
landscaping, or we have a contractor doing it.
I may have missed it, but are there phases to the project?
We believe we're gonna do them in one phase, but we'll likely phase the easterly loop as phase 1A, and the westerly, 28 units is 1B. They'll be going probably in unison, but they divide up nicely in 2 phases.
And where would the construction vehicles be directed to go?
Deer Hills. Jason F. again, Land Resource Consultants. All construction, traffic has to go use Deer Hill Drive, which
Deer
is,
Hill.
yep, which is it's the first park entrance if you're heading, westbound on 25. It's the big one with the big sign. So, it's the cleanest path.
And then have you thought about doing a water tank? Is there gonna be any water storage being pumped?
So there's, to get super detailed, specific,
Yeah.
so the analysis is, so we have a 3rd well site approved by the State of Maine Drinking Water Program. We have capacity, we don't need that well, so that site is a reserve well in case anything happened. We're going through the hydraulic analysis now, based on, the park doesn't have a water problem, they have a distribution problem. And it's not even a problem anymore because they've added a bunch of valves, in there. So basically what would happen is if there was a line break, there was no good way to shut the water off to just a small area.
Mhm.
So everyone had to get a boil water order, right? Because there's no redundancies in the line. So as part of our plan, there's also some dead ends of that line. We're actually connecting to those dead ends, looping them around. We'll run water line down the fire road, which is the non-vehicular access, to loop back in to the south of Deer Hills, and then we come in on the north of Deer Hills. So the system will be a full loop, and that actually is good for water quality because it keeps things moving. And then as far as the existing wells, the capacity of those wells is great. They produce enough water. The groundwater recharge is actually very good there. So what happens is though is we have an older pump. And so that older pump tends to pump hard and then shut off. It's not one of these phased pumps that during low pressure or low demand times, it will pump low. During high demand times, it will pump high. This pump just turns on and turns off. So what we do is we add atmospheric storage. So not a giant water tank like you might be thinking, but a large storage tank, which sort of helps ease high pump times to low pump times as an intermediary to feed the line. So
Were some of the water issues, were they mostly during the winter, colder months? Or was there any rhyme or reason to when they were happening?
no, I might be misspeaking, but a lot of them were, I think, connection issues. So when a unit was installed, typically when you do the water line connection there, the saddles they use sometimes can come apart. I know I've been out there specifically when there were a couple of saddle breaks.
So linking more new connections, that's gonna be the time when things might
No,
break.
'cause these are all new dry connections, so sometimes, like for instance, if you replace a unit, sometimes you run a new water line to that unit, you don't hook up to the old one, based on how you bring the unit that's on the other side. And so those would be the issues. I don't know specifically, Patrick could probably talk to where those breaks were, historically.
Joel Brown with RHP Properties, part of the management. I think it's fair to say that a few things have changed, just addressing the water line issues. Number one is the communication between the staff and what's happening out there with the residents has improved. It is an entirely new staff in the last 2 years, from maintenance to on-site staff to regional manager, and I feel comfortable saying that at this point in time, we are at a good place, but far better than it was before. So the communication has improved. What Jason was referring to is we had a few vacant sites there in the existing community where we brought new homes in, and they were connecting to those, and that was an existing line. And we didn't have isolation valves. Those lines are sometimes not well marked, so when you have a vendor that's going in there, they're hitting those lines. That was a portion of the water line breaks. Some, not just a few, were as a result of, I think, was freezing temperatures, things like that. And once again, we didn't have isolation valves. And then other times, there had been a prominent leak that we couldn't locate, and we needed to identify where that leak was to correct that. And we successfully, there was a pretty, a leak that was hard to detect, and that was resolved. So there's a multitude of those things contributed to it. We haven't, fortunately, this doesn't change things, we haven't had a line break in some time. And when we did, it was well communicated. I think this is not my area of expertise, but I think when we do the development and we are adding more units in there, we will be able to isolate, and it's a new system, and the impact of that will not be on the existing park when those new homes are put in, and the line, we won't have the line problems.
Good. I seem to remember there was a sidewalk around the west section. Is that still in place, or is that gone?
Yeah, that sidewalk has been removed from this submittal.
Okay. So how wide is the road through there? 20
foot.
20 feet?
road section.
Okay. And then the playground, it said it was being moved, but we still don't know where it's going. Is that?
We're just adjusting a couple of the amenities
Yeah.
within the same playground area.
So it's gonna stay in the same
Yeah,
same
yeah,
area,
yeah.
just shifting.
A bulk of it stays, and we're moving a couple of the entities. I think there's one or two items that will have to get adjusted in the playground area.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Charlie, for me.
John?
Two questions. One, could I get clarity on the two wells? The two existing wells, are those gonna be used to service the new homes?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
so, yeah.
You mentioned a third well, a spare well. Is that a regulated well by the Main Drinking Water Program?
Yes, it would be, yeah, it would have to go under, meet all the requirements. So to fill in a little bit on that, so that the water operator comes and tests the water on the schedule that's specified by the main drinking water program. And those test results are submitted back into the program and are publicly available. But there's also like a meter on that, so they check the meter to see, that's a lot of times how you find what we call a quiet leak. So you might have a leak in the line somewhere, you don't know because the soil's out there is so sandy, you're not seeing a squishy spot or anything. So if when you look at all the flow data, which we have, you know, pages and pages of, if you see a spike at on time, you would know that, hey, we might have a leak out here. So all that stuff is run per the state drinking water.
Sure. If you're gonna run if you're gonna run the expansion off the two existing wells, what's the need for the third?
So the third well came into play when we were at 133 units. And we were getting close to, the two wells still had capacity, but it was within that. Engineers like to not get too close to that area, so we needed that extra well in there, which they're all gonna be. When we dropped the number of units, we're below where the Water Horizons is a hydro geoengineering company. They're now saying that the two wells are sufficient with pump off reads.
For the expansion.
Will the third well be tied in and running periodically? Not just gonna sit there idle?
No, so it hasn't been drilled yet, and so we still one meeting away from deciding all of this stuff for certain, actually. So we'll have like more solid answers for you when you get probably with the pump design upgrades and all that stuff. So it may or may not be there, but we haven't. It has been registered with the state of Maine, and we've kept all septic systems 500 feet away from it and all that good stuff.
Remind me of a septic system, if you don't mind. Is the current, or the existing system right now, multiple leach fields and multiple septic tanks, or is it, does each residence have its own septic tank and then pump to a leach?
So most of the residents are served by one large engineered septic system.
Okay.
There are situations where there are individual septics on certain units. The previous owner would bring in and add units, and instead of adding them into the engineered system, they just built like one septic system for two units, very common thing.
Yep.
So there are septic tanks with most of the houses, those all get pumped and all that stuff.
Last question, are you currently measuring nitrates in the subsurface pods?
Not, there is no nitrate measurement going on now, but certainly there would be, when we do the engineered systems, there will be monitoring, testing areas for the, thank you.
Just a quick comment on the plans. I'd like to see the shoreline zoning areas and FEMA floodplains on the record drawings. Don't
I have a suggestion. Having personally managed a water system before myself, 35 homes, I would suggest that you look at the design and strategically put flow monitors, as many as it makes sense, to help you determine where there are problems in your system. Because the system is going to be much larger when you're done here, other than it is now. But having strategically placed flow meters, when you have an issue and it's 5 degrees out and you gotta figure out where your issue is, it's not very nice to not know where the water's going, especially in the winter. So have in mind in your design a properly distributed flow monitoring system to help you manage the system, because shit will happen. I don't care if it's brand new. I shouldn't have swore it, because I'm on TV.
That's okay, Frank.
Anyway, that's all I had to say.
I had just a couple things. As I read through the ZBA, on the bottom of page 6, it talks about the 125-foot undisturbed vegetated buffer from Josie's Brook. and associated wetlands on each side of Joseph Brook. So it's 125 feet from the edge of the wetlands. That's the way I read it. And if it is, if they've got a number of lots in there that are in trouble.
Yeah. So the 125 feet was from the edge of the stream.
That's not what it says in the findings, I don't think.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that because it would.
Page 6, the bottom. It says Josie's Brook's associated wetlands on each side of Josie's Brook. To me, that includes the wetlands, as I read it.
Yeah.
That wasn't the intent, and this orders.
Yeah, that,
We'll check in with the appeals board and make sure we
Yeah.
know exactly what they meant there.
And then, the other thing, do they need approval from the Saco River Corridor Commission if this is draining into the Saco River by a brook?
I don't know how
Some of
far
the
out.
feed brooks that go in there are under the Saco River Corridor Commission review. I don't know. But Josie Brook does go into the Saco River, right?
It does. There's a bit of land in between here and there, but it does end up there, so we should probably check in with them.
You might want to just,
Yeah.
they're in Cornish now, right?
yeah, we can check in with them. I don't think that ever happened for the previous, I don't know if they've changed their setbacks or their overlays.
I know they added some brooks to their review. I don't know. I really don't know the exact numbers or names, so. Other than that, a lot of the stuff that I had highlighted may get resolved as we go forward, so that's what's getting forward.
Mr. Chair, if there's no other comments from the board, I make a motion to open up for public comment.
Second. Been moved and seconded, open up for public comment. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Would anybody from the public like to speak?
Don't forget to state your name into the microphone and address, please. Sorry.
Thank you.
Ken Falsage, 190 Cape Road in Standish. I'm a property abutter, so I have the property that borders what's referred to as the Old Dow Road and Josie's Brook, would be on the left side of on the map over there. I just wanted to address a comment, or a question actually, that Andrew posed about access by the residents that come down there. We would certainly welcome the residents, the future residents, to come and enjoy the beauty down there. Won't be any restrictions, but I do want to make it clear, there is no road there, okay? There's a pathway, it's still on the tax map as a road. I don't know why it's not a single line there showing, because it went back to the property owners back in the 1950s when the road was abandoned. So I'm just speaking for, as the owners on one side of what's referred to as the Old Dow Road, that we would have no objections to the residents, as long as there's no ATV traffic or pathway or something like that or whatever. Because we've always tried to prevent that because they cause a lot of damage. So just want to get that in.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Seeing no further comments from the public, I make a motion to close public comment.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to close public comment. Discussion by the board. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. We need to provide them with, you need additional stuff? Or we've kind of worked our way through questions here. Is there anything particular we need from your perspective, Scott, that we need a further direction, or we haven't reviewed the stuff from engineer yet, so.
Yeah, we need responses to the engineering comments. I think that some more information on the traffic improvements that were required by the appeals board would be in order. More information on the septic systems, to make sure that we're reviewing them at the levels that the ordinance requires. And because systems over 2,000 gallons a day do have some additional review requirements in the ordinance. So we need some more information, at least enough information to know that that's what we're dealing with or not. I think that's.
Performance, sorry, wasn't there a performance guarantee?
They've got performance guarantee numbers largely in the packet. We will figure out exactly what that looks like going forward. And the capital impact fee for road impacts is something that's still being worked out. I think at this point they're waiting for information from the town side for that. We're trying to clarify exactly how our impact fees play into this stretch of road, which is a state road, not a town road, which we would normally connect on, but it is in the urban compact area. But also some of the improvements are things that they are gonna do as part of those traffic improvements required by the appeals board. So under the ordinance, if they're just gonna build them, then they don't have to pay for the improvements. So again, we're trying to work through how all those details play out for that one. I think that is most of the big flags that I had at this time.
What was the deal with Rosita Drive?
Rosita Drive.
What's the deal with that?
The appeals board says they
Walk
can't have
through
access
right
to
now,
it,
but
so,
Yes.
No access.
No access, it's gonna be closed right off.
Correct.
which is, I believe, the case now, if I remember from the site walk.
Just stones there.
Boulders, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some boulders at the south end of Rosita Drive, and that, we'll make sure of that. There's no anticipated access
It
from
really
our
hasn't
community.
changed, it's just,
Yes,
I know that it didn't
that's correct.
Scott, what about your question around lot size?
And that's mostly a septic question. I fully believe that all the lots are the proper size. It's just hard to fully confirm that all the ones under 20 are allowed, because I don't know exactly how the septics are tied in. Once the more septic information is provided, we should be all set there.
Okay.
Carolyn?
Just a question about, this is like the rural residential zone. I know in other subdivisions, they've been limited as to how many units they can put on each year. Thinking of that, I had a pit one where it can only be 5. How does that play with a development like this?
Good question.
So that will still apply to this development. The elderly housing elements are exempt from that. So those units would be able to be developed at any time. But the other units would still have to comply with our growth management ordinance.
So it says on the first page, 49 of the new laws are proposed to be age restricted 55 and over. Sorry, your memoranda from
Yep.
October 2nd.
So the restricted ones and I guess that is probably another thing we need before final approval, at least, would be some more information on exactly how those restrictions are gonna be put in place and enforced to make sure that it meets our requirements to be considered that.
Good point. All right, I think we need to talk about sidewalk. Are there members here that would like a sidewalk?
I would, I don't know about anybody else.
Yep. Sean. We should, Patrick, we've had enough contingency that once we want a sidewalk.
I promise not to, hunt anything while I'm there.
So all of, I'll call it phase 1B is easily accessible. Walk the roads over there.
Yeah,
Phase 1B, 1A. The big loop. Dow Road still goes through there, we can walk down Dow Road. How much does the board wanna walk? Do they wanna walk the whole loop? Just get a feel for what it's like out there?
I believe last time we went out one of the proposed access road that is that's sort of in the center here on the old Dow Road up here, and then came back through where this is proposed to be. We didn't do we didn't walk all the way out to Joseph Brook.
But some of that area is pretty thick, but you can walk down the Dow Road, old road bed, to get close to Josie's Brook, and then you can kind of meander and see up that way. So it is, probably wouldn't want to walk the whole proposed loop, but you can see, I'm gonna say 85% of the project from Dow Road, and then just punching in every areas. And we have now real high-end GPS, so we'll flag whatever you want, but, we can tell you exactly where you are, you can see yourself on the plan.
we want to use going on to.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever got to the height of land last time. I don't know, maybe we did get the height of land on Meadow Road.
Yeah, I think, I remember that, yeah, I think you and I were.
We haven't made any of the loop to speak of. Okay, well, what would the board like to see laid out to take a walk? I agree, you can get like a single frequency GPS unit plus a minus meter.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're like within a couple inches.
As long as we stay near you, we'll know where we are.
Well, won't be me using that right yet, so that should be okay.
Better in the woods.
No, actually, no one's.
All right? Timing,
Okay.
it's good for everybody.
So we'll have another later.
Sorry, timing.
Mondays or Fridays work best for me.
After this week, I'm gone for 2 weeks. I've been out doing something for 4 days.
Monday and Friday works fine for me as well.
I think I'll go along with whatever everyone else would.
Well, 13th, sorry, Mr. Chair, no, Columbus Day weekend, it's the 13th. So if we're gonna do it, we'd probably most likely have to bump it out to the 20th, because it's a holiday weekend, and I don't, making Mr. Hastings work on a holiday.
Yeah, the last time we did this, I was out on a Saturday.
I know, but I'm trying to be nice,
I
okay?
appreciate it.
I have a conflict on the 17th, but outside of that, yeah, I could do the 13th because it's a holiday, but 17th I have a conflict, that's it.
Andrew, you leave on this?
I'll try to make whatever you guys schedule.
Carolyn?
I have a conflict on the 17th.
So I think we're talking 20th. How's that work for people?
I have a conflict on the 20th. Oh,
You be in charge, Frank?
I might not, if we,
Is that,
You be in charge?
I'll be in charge, I
I'll be in
guess.
key 15, R15.
He's gonna need the GPS more than we might, you know.
if we decide on the 20th, I could make that work.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, I can make the 20th, yeah.
20th
Works
is
for me. Yeah, I'm here anyway. Yeah. That'll be great.
good in the afternoon. What's good for people in timing?
From daylight savings, start like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, Scott, I mean, for you, I mean, sorry,
It's
light,
not gonna move till the first week in November, right? First week in November. You've been until Q6.
sun starts getting down, so.
I can't do anything till after 4:30.
4:30 is fine.
It's gonna be dark.
I just was looking at that.
You'll have a good hour if you start at 4:30.
And keep the phase up above the play area for last. You can drive that with your car.
Yeah, I mean, we'll all, I'll coordinate with Scott and give everyone a map where to meet up, but, yeah, we just get down and you're basically the lawn.
Yeah, as long as we do the woods part first, we should be able to make that work, I think, at 4:30.
Yeah, sunset's 5:48.
Are we gonna have a workshop at all this month?
I haven't had any requests for one at this time, so,
No problem.
That would be the date for the workshop. We had it.
and we'd have to be done before 6, because it'll be dark out by then, so we can make it back here.
10:20,
10:20, 10:30.
4:30, okay.
All yours.
When?
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
20th?
4:30? Look forward to Scott. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just one other question. We're kind of in drought conditions right now, so how are the wells held up?
Oh, no issue. So those, that's a pretty decent water preserve. I can get you more information on that, see if there's, any, what the numbers are coming back from the operator reading the numbers, but, there's, as far as I know, they've had no issues on that.
That's promising, right?
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, are we gonna table this to the next meeting then?
Yeah, is there a motion to table this?
Make a motion to table this memoranda to our next regular meeting.
I guess, yeah, the more discussion, is the only thing I'd be is the applicant think they'll be ready in a month to keep or do you want a little more time for the engineering or?
Yeah, I'll coordinate with you on that a little bit later. I think it may, don't hold me to this, but it may make sense to, we probably be back in November instead of October. Wait, no, this is October. You're right, so we'll be back in December with the full.
Alright, so I'll just, rather than saying a motion to the next meeting to.
Whatever they coordinate with you.
I make a motion to
One of the
table
next
this,
two.
coordinated with Scott.
I'll second that. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all in favor? Very good.
Thanks, everybody.
Next item on the agenda. Yates Builders, LLC, Cram Road, map 6, lot 32-1A, and 40 subdivision application for final approval for phase 1, 12 single-family house lots. I gotta find the stack for that one. That's a big one. All right, where was yours?
Good evening. Craig Sweet, Attorney Consultants on behalf of the applicants. This project's been coming back a few times, 2023 and last year for preliminary, Q4. We're here for final tonight. This was in front of you guys a couple times in 2023 and then last year in 24 for preliminary approval. The plans are largely the same with some minor comments from the engineering peer review in there. Just wanted to kind of go over it a little bit. This is a proposed 12-lot subdivision on some existing land off of Cram Road, two parcels that are bisected by the old Cram Road right-of-way there. The areas in blue you see on the screen are the wetlands and the streams. And we're proposing 12 new lots. There's a future second phase that will likely plan to come with additional 8 for a total of 20 lots on the property. Between both properties, it totals about 71 acres in size. Scott, you go to the next slide. And this shows the location of the lots in red, the 12 lots, 4 of the lots off of Cram Road, and then the additional 8 are off of proposed Yates Road, all with the proper frontage and sizing. Each one will be served by their own wells and septics. The updated subdivision plan has some areas in blue for the wells, including then we have shown the 2 septic areas in there as well. The plans for phase 1 feature about 36 acres of open space, largely keeping the wetlands and streams all protected open space, and then on some of the lots themselves, there's some setback buffers to kind of keep those areas protected additionally on there. The project received all of its stormwater permits and wetland impact permits from the DEP and Army Corps last year. And we're included during preliminary as well. We've worked with town staff on the impact fees and addressed a couple of minor comments from the attorney regarding the homeowners association documents, and then the stormwater permit. I think that largely covers everything, just kind of as an overall review, but happy to answer any questions.
Scott?
So as I said, this got preliminary approval last fall and is now back to get final. Not a lot has changed since that previous review. Since my memo last week, we do have confirmation from Coral Palmer that the engineering comments have all been addressed. I believe that was printed out for you here. The town attorney has also reviewed the resubmitted declaration, found their comments to be addressed, and we can fill in the blank on condition 11, I believe it's Teal Properties LLC, is what the stormwater permit needs to be reallocated to. And as they said, the capital impact fee, we can fill that in to condition 9 if you would like an exact number for $39,004.20. And that settles the outstanding questions on the review. When we did this in preliminary, most of it was pretty straightforward, and it's still all about the same. I have had, the fire chief has looked at this, Public Works has looked at this, and there have been no issues from their perspective on the road layout and the fact that all the buildings will be required to be sprinkled, so that hits our fire suppression concerns. The one issue we spent a lot of time on in preliminary was the right title and interest to the access way in here to what was at one time Cram Road. And that issue was the focus of a lot of discussion at that time, and town attorney weighed in on it at multiple times, and in the end, the board, acting on town attorney's memo, found that it was sufficient for this project's approval from the planning board. We have since changed legal counsel of the town, so new legal counsel has reviewed this, and the previous legal counsel's letter and the board's actions, and has their recommendation to the board is that they respect the board's previous decision to consider this good enough for planning board review and continue through with the final approval, having done that in preliminary. If there's any disagreement with that, which I am aware that there is based on the public comment we've already received, the channel for that would be then to appeal this board's decision to Superior Court, and at that point, a more thorough review of the title and deed history can be done.
By the courts.
Within the courts, yes.
Okay. Board members. Andrew.
For preliminary approval, how long did they have Scott to come back?
There is not a hard deadline,
Okay.
but after a certain point, the board can look at it and say if ordinances have changed or things like that, and then you have to resubmit for preliminary.
What about information that we've received has changed for the right title and interest?
And from my perspective and from town attorney's perspective, the facts of the matter were largely presented during preliminary and continue to be the case. So personally, my recommendation is with town attorney to treat that preliminary finding as still good and continue forward with this process.
So can we, as a board, do anything as far as revoting, or?
There is no legal requirement that the board follow its previous approval, and there is a mechanism for rejecting this final approval entirely if that's what you feel you need to do. And that would just result in them resubmitting the application for preliminary, and we'd be back where we are. But it is maybe a clearer path forward. It's not, those are paths, so I don't know if they're necessarily good.
Well, I'm not sure why the applicant would want to move forward with the uncertainty. Is there, you feel like 100% that you're gonna win any legal battle?
They feel confident in what they have.
One thing I noticed in the purchase sale agreement, they get 60 days to prove. I want to get it right out.
Yeah, just like when I purchase a house, they do a title search and make sure that there's no liens on the property, and usually you have access. In this case, would that be something, Charlie, they would look at in the purchase and sale?
That was in there, yeah.
Hire a really good title insurance company.
Number 17, within 60 days, they have to verify that the property has clear and undeniable access to the property over Cram Road.
Okay.
So that is within,
But purchaser is waiting for our final approval, right? To then purchase the property?
I know they've already looked into it on their end, prior to purchasing and prior to the agreement. I know, yeah, they're waiting for final on that, but, I know they've already looked into it on their end, done their due diligence.
The 60 days was from August 1st. So they're already in September 1st and October 1st. So it's beyond that, so they must have certification.
Yeah, I know they've done, that they've looked into it on their end.
I don't know what you're saying, Charlie. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, in tab 12,
Yeah.
the purchase and sale agreement, which is go to the third page. Those two are all part of it. Sitting item 17 on the third page,
Okay,
okay?
right.
They have to verify that the property has clear and undeniable access to the property over Cran Road, part of the purchase sale agreement. That was dated August 1st, 2025. So they are already beyond the 60 days. And one would assume that they could furnish us with clear and undeniable access to the property over Cran Road, some document.
And our
Reading
town,
that wrong?
and our town attorney, Scott, has seen the letter from Tasha saying that there's no public easement on,
So that letter is a separate issue. I mean, that is that the town has no rights or interest or ownership to this road.
but the landowners beyond the
I mean,
gravel section do have access to their own land?
I have not looked at their deeds.
Because if they don't have access, they would be landlocked, right? So there would be several properties that would be landlocked.
Yeah. Under the time frame there too.
And does that mean you can't even log it if it's landlocked? Without permission from an abutting landowner to get in there, log, and then get out? I don't know, I'm trying to think of all the different things that having access versus not.
But we know that no
Sure.
public access was reserved, or no public easement was reserved.
Correct. There is no
So we know that.
public easement held by the town over this.
Well, we don't know where the private easements might be, if there are any.
So then how can we do approval? I don't, if we don't know, how do we do that? I guess,
I mean, maybe they've got prescriptive easement, because they've used it for more than 20 or 40 years, whatever that magic number is.
but we're guessing.
That's right.
Yeah, so.
Court has to
I
make that
believe
decision.
the argument that was followed in preliminary approval on the recommendation of town attorney in that time was that the applicant furnished deeds, including a deed that included the words that there was part of the transfer of ownership of the property, included any and all rights which the previous owners had to travel over Cram Road to access this property. Now, there were debate over what that exactly meant and whether it was sufficient or not, and the board ultimately accepted that as sufficient.
And does that?
Again, we are, to some extent, and this has been a position taken by town attorney, the applicant's attorney, I think this is the one thing everyone has seemed to agree on, is that the planning board review, it can only go so deep. And it is a relatively statutorily and procedurally and through case law, the planning board is only able to do deed research to a point. We are not the proper jurisdiction or the proper expertise or knowledge to fully answer all questions of deed history. And at some point, the board needs to make a finding, as is required by our ordinance, one way or the other. And there is a process for whichever party does not like that to appeal that and bring this to a place with more proper jurisdiction over the fine intricacies of deed history.
Basically, we have to rely on what the applicant gives us until such time to disprove it.
Well, and third-party review and our lawyer, I think there's layers to it, but.
It's not up to the board to try to figure out. It's up to the applicant to provide right title and interest, very clear. Now, I have the letter that we got from the attorney back at that last meeting, and it wasn't cut and dry, and so I didn't vote for that because our own attorney advised us not to. And, so, we went against our original attorney's advice saying, well, it's good enough for right now, and if the neighbors don't like it, they can appeal, but we didn't follow the attorney's advice at the time. And we have new information now that clearly, it's not proved to us who has the right title and interest. And it's not up for us to figure that out, it's up for the applicant to provide it. And until they do so, I don't really see how we can move forward with this.
The other question I had was the beginning of Cram Road, we had talked about even before preliminary about the width and how, if it needed to be improved upon. I didn't see anything of that, about that in this.
Gore Palmer did look at the public portion of Cram Road and felt that its current construction was adequate to handle new traffic, so.
I talked about the intersection too.
Yes, this is the public portion, the full public portion, including the intersection, 25 there. 35.
Because we had a similar situation on Dolph Road, right? Where the road needed to, we were looking at possibly needing the road to be different than it was. I thought this would be the same situation.
When it comes to any changes to public roads, I lean heavily on the public works director and our third-party engineers. They came back with their review from Gore Palmer saying that they felt the road was sufficient.
Can you remind me again, Scott, how wide that part of the road is?
I would have to look it up.
Not 22 feet.
Existing pavement.
Yeah, go ahead. Answer the question.
Sorry. So, John Cross, Public Works, it's 18 to 20 feet in various spots. The reasons why we said that it didn't have to be built to 22 feet is because they are building an interior road for that, so their frontages is not off the current road that we are looking at. So the Dolph Road, their frontage was gonna be Dolph Road, so that's why that had to be built to that 22-foot section. Their new section of road that they're building would have to be to the 22 feet, not the current width. And like you said, we did send it to Gore Palmer, I brought it up, I brought up the intersection, I asked about the road width, and they had their traffic engineers look at it, and they said it was adequate for what the current widths were for that. Does that answer your question on that?
Thank you, John.
We're at this
Caroline.
clarification on it for me. If, in fact, they have an easement, if it's an easement, it can't be turned over to the town as a public way, right? Because we need to have warranty deeds to go to the town for public roads.
So
It's
yes,
not encumbered by somebody else's rights.
it is very unlikely that, and I'm not an attorney, and I don't know the history of this, which is the whole point of our issue here. But it is very unlikely that this road would ever be able to be turned over to the town as a public road because of the murkiness of this deed history. I think that it would be unlikely that they'd be able to get that clarified to the point of being able to give us a deed to the roadway. And that is not a requirement of planning board review that it has to mean. The planning board review has a few elements of we'll talk about this more in the fourth application here tonight, requiring that, uses the language that requires a public road, that you can't use a private road. It is my understanding of the ordinance that that is for the road standards that the road will be built to. And now there's also a number of elements about future connectivity and the ability, and this is being built to such a point where it could be structurally, it meets the requirements that it could be turned over to the town, and that's the requirement of the ordinance. Again, I question whether that would be able to be turned over to the town because of the deed ability. And again, that is another point in the review process that has a more rigid standard for deeds than this process does.
Mr. Chair, I had a question. Andrew, are you making, or in a sense, are you considering to make a motion to ask the planning board to go back to the preliminary, in a sense, revote on the September issue per Mrs. Beagle's concerns, and have us vote again, you know, basically on this issue, opening it back up for preliminary, basically?
If it's allowed, yes, I would make that motion.
Sorry, I lean to Mr. Hastings,
I don't know the
but
rules around
that's
it.
what I'm asking, to make sure I'm clear.
Here. Processes forward would be to continue with the issue settled as recommended by town attorney, to deny this application for lack of right title and interest, which would be a reversal of your previous findings, or to reject the application for final review, which is allowed at this point, and make them basically start over again at preliminary, at which point you would reevaluate all the elements.
Yeah, I don't want them to start over again. I want them to provide the information about the road. I guess it's not denial and it's not starting over. It's just provide that one aspect.
Which
of
is,
it. So
at some point we have to deny or approve. So I,
Yes.
if
Well,
the
we have to
board
table it
would,
until such time that they provide us that.
I would say that at this point, and given the length of time this is extended on, that the board gives some amount of deadline, give them to the next meeting or some such to provide that information if you are looking for more information, and then be prepared to make a vote one way or the other in the near future so that this can be resolved one way or the other. So now I fully expect this to go to court no matter what this board decides.
So if we tabled this, in a sense, memorandum to the December regular meeting, to, in a sense, to get the right title to the road question.
If I may, we went through this, I think, for a couple hours last time with, I think, the exact same discussion. Whereas, you know, the client, the applicant feels they've had two attorneys look at this, they've had it, you know, with the right title interest. And we went through this, the same discussion like every time, last time too. It feels like we keep going back on it, or we're trying to reverse it, or going back, and, you know, I think, with all due respect, it feels like we just move forward with it, in one way or another.
I would definitely, from a procedural standpoint, be more comfortable with making a decision on this, either to refuse final submission and make them start over at preliminary, to reverse the preliminary and to deny this on right title and interest, or to approve. I think, especially with an applicant who is not requesting more time to meet these things, I think it is reasonable the board make a vote on this.
Question. If we refuse it due to right title and interest, and then they get proof, which is, the onus should be on them, the applicant to provide it, then they could bring the project back with that proof already in this state, so we could pick up right where we left off, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, they can either appeal, if they feel their current submission is sufficient and that the board erred in its decision, they can also appeal this decision to Superior Court and fight it there. If in the future they find, or otherwise acquire rights to access this, yes, there's no prejudice in the board's denial of this. They can resubmit with more information.
And with, with all due respect, the applicant, we went forward final based on the approval last time that there was sufficient right title and interest within the findings. Which is why we're back.
But what if there was a piece of paper that was found between almost a year ago, between now and then, that said you didn't? Like, I mean,
I
we
personally,
would still go with the preliminary approval? I don't think so.
I haven't seen anything.
Right, but-
Neither of the attorneys. I would imagine that in the year timeframe that would be time for someone to bring it up. I haven't seen it provided, what's why we're back at final. The applicant's attorneys have looked at it previously. That's just, I haven't seen anything. I don't know if
So,
anyone else has seen anything.
I think we should hear from the public before we make any motions and all that stuff.
We need to go through our list of stuff too.
Yeah,
We can do that after the public. If you want.
I think that makes sense to do after.
Is there a motion to open it up to the public?
I'll make a motion to open, in a sense, this matter before the public.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to open it up to the public. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Anyone wishing to speak on this? Anyone want to go first?
Just remember to say your name and your address, please. So,
Absolutely.
and the microphone is kind of quiet for some people, so if you have to lean in, we apologize.
Good evening, my name is Matthew Marquis. My wife Jennifer and I live at 60 Graham Road. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of my wife, myself, and pretty much all residents of Standish. It is the legal burden of the applicant, not the town, not the abutting property owners, to demonstrate that all legal thresholds of the review process have been satisfied. This responsibility is clearly established under Maine law entitled 38, section 4404. The Standish subdivision ordinance, chapter 181-8-A, and the Standish land use code, section 25231E. There are three critical thresholds that should be met before final approval is granted. Acceptance of a private road by the town, proof that a subdivision abuts a public right-of-way, and lawful recorded access to a public way for the subdivision. These requirements are enforced by at least 10 different Maine laws, statutes, and Standish code. It appears the applicant believes his claimed right, title, and interest, RTI, may establish rights to all property needing improvements for this project. The release deed from James E. Cummings and Mark D. Floor to Yates Builders, recorded in book 15278, page 12, confirms only their interest in Cram Road was conveyed. That conveyance may give the applicant RTI sufficient to access his property. In no way does it give him the right to improve property owned in fee by 6 separate property owners. Ownership of the discontinued Graham Road reverted back to each abutting property owner to the center line as affirmed by Hathaway versus the town of Standish. The applicant needs additional recorded easements or deeds from all the properties showing a legal right to lawfully cross and improve the property, or excuse me, the private road. To our knowledge, I was given a copy of the application. None has been presented. If RTI alone met the legal threshold, the town attorney would not have recommended a condition of approval. On page 2, the staff memo from Scott to the planning board, dated October 6th, the attorney states, I would recommend adding a condition of approval that neither Yates Road nor Cram Road be considered for acceptance until unencumbered title to the entirety of the private section of Graham Road is demonstrated to the satisfaction of the town attorney. Obviously, that hasn't been done yet. This is not a clerical condition needing a correction. It's a fundamental legal requirement that has yet to be satisfied. Without proof of unencumbered title to the entirety of the private Graham Road, the subdivision legally does not abut a public way. It has to establish legal access to a public way. And without recorded easements, that doesn't exist. And it needs, at this point, they don't even qualify to submit to the town for approval. They haven't even met that threshold yet. They haven't. Sorry. The possibility exists that final approval may be granted despite, although I'm going to retract that statement after the statements I've heard, but these unresolved legal deficiencies, with expectation that property owners will have the option to appeal to resolve any dispute in court. That approach ignores both Maine law and town code and transfers the developer's legal burden to the private property owners. The town itself has acknowledged it would not accept Graham Road for consideration as a public way without proof of unencumbered title. It now appears it could be voted for final approval. As property owners, we've also raised questions about the activities that might begin if final approval is granted. This private road is designed for residential use. There's 3 homes that use it. It's not made for commercial vehicles, for construction vehicles. In the 13 years we've been there, one time Mr. Finney has logged his property. But before he did, he met with the homeowners and said, hey, when it's all said and done, we're gonna come in and we're gonna fix this road, make sure it's all taken care of. Everyone was happy, work was done. There's been no attempt from the builders to ease the minds of any of the private property owners, from what I've been told, and speaking for myself. I've got a whole lot more, but I think I've already covered what needs to be covered. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
Come up, sir.
Sir?
Hello, my name is Jack Hardy Ford. I live at 4 Rocky Shore in Standish. And just 2 public comments. One is to Mr. Walton there. I would think if 2 town attorneys had checked this, and probably the applicant's attorney, there probably isn't any more information. I would think that they would have it to you. Which leads me to point number 2 is whichever direction you need to go is what you're going to do. But I think, justice delayed is justice denied, and to put it off, put either side off, doesn't sound like the right thing to do. And because it sounds like the only person that can make the decision about this title issue is probably going to be somebody with a robe on, and that's in court, good or bad. But if we delay it for more information, if they had any more information, I would think they would have already given it to you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Corp. I live at 30 Graham Road. Recently purchased the property. Kind of got thrown into the deep end on this whole thing, being that we've only been in there for a little better than a month. At any rate, based on everything that we've been hearing, the discussion, and I had a whole bunch of notes and a whole bunch of comments that I was going to put together. I've been in touch with my attorney, and nothing seems to be very clear about Cram Road past the paved end. He has lots of questions. We've been working on it. you guys obviously have lots of questions based on, you know, if you would ever accept the road as a town road and so on and so forth. And based on all the other comments here, I'll just make it simple. I would hope and recommend that this gets denied until, you know, they want to resubmit and try again with having all the ducks in a row. We won't waste any more of their time or any more of your time. And thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, I'm Stephanie Corp, the other half. So 30 Cram Road, we recently purchased this over 200-year-old historic home. It has several more than century-old giant beautiful oak trees and a rock wall that follows our property line. Half of our property is on the paved part of the road and the other half of the property is on the dirt road. We fully intended to have a home that would have the charm of being on a nice, quiet country road. In fact, the real estate listing for the property on several websites was listed as on a very quiet, public paved dead-end road that turns into dirt just past the home. We did do our due diligence. We're not, you know, oblivious to this. We had our realtors contact the town, and the town confirmed that the proposed development was not moving forward. Well, you've heard from a couple of the neighbors, and there's some really encouraging comments from the board, citing ordinances that show development should not receive approval until the developer or the applicant clearly establishes the legal right to access his landlocked property. We were also really assured by the planning board's comments during its September 2024 meeting, which acknowledged that access is a very significant issue and that they would rather see the developer, and I'm quoting you guys, I got it from the website, sue the town than have the landowners sue the developer over their property rights. Thank you for that, if the numbers are still here. The town planner stated in his recent memo that access is a settled issue. Clearly, there's some dissent on that. He feels that the developer has not shown how his development will be accessed, particularly without destruction to our private property. The developer's access, we feel, is a threshold issue that should not be ignored by the town and shuffled off to private landowners. As an aside, I'm also a public servant, and I thank you guys for doing this. It's not an easy job. I certainly sympathize with the role of being an advocate of the public's interest in balancing all these tedious details and perspectives. Anyway, for the reasons that have been explained by others today, there is no doubt that the significant increase in traffic, as mentioned in one of the traffic studies, significant increase in traffic, along with the destruction involved with paving and expanding the private road to access the development, does not meet this community's standards. So for all those reasons, I'm really begging and asking you guys to have our back and to vote no. Thanks.
Anyone else like to speak?
Seeing no further comment, Mr. Chair. Oh, yeah, one more? Okay.
Kim Sweat, and Dennis and I own 35 Cram Road, which is the 6-unit apartment building. He is out of state today, or he would be here and probably have a lot more to say. I'm just going to keep it simple and say that we will never be okay with allowing an easement to allow changes or access on our property. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I say one more thing? My wife and I, Matthew Markey, 60 Grand Road, my wife and I are in total agreement with Kim. We will never willingly grant an easement to our private property. Thank you.
Raymer, and at the end, 80 Cram, and same thing. No intention of ever granting easement.
Anyone else?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to close public comment.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to close public comment. Board co- Any issues with the board conversation? No? All those in favor? Unanimous. We definitely heard from the public that they are not in favor. Should we go down through your comments and just talk about it a little bit?
It's the board's pleasure. I mean, certainly from my perspective, if there is a chance the board is going to choose to deny this or to decline to accept to reject the submission for final, I maybe want to discuss that first rather than spend a lot of time on other things.
I do agree it's a threshold issue.
And I guess if you have other major questions, Charlie, then certainly we should make sure we do address any and all issues with the application, but that seems to be the big one left.
You had a comment in here under 18127, 1A1, the applicant has not proactively stated how they feel this application meets any of the purposes. This is the conservation subdivision.
Yeah, I mean, the applicant didn't provide a full narrative, if you will, of exactly how the different purposes behind the conservation subdivision were being met. That said, I mean, as it then goes on to say in the memo that this is set up with sensitivity to the environmental resources, including multiple elements that are specifically brought up in the ordinance.
And then the other one was ownership and maintenance of open space. Well, they've stated they will offer the land to the town.
Yeah, I think that, you can probably disregard that comment. I think the revised declaration information gives us pretty clear. That's what I thought too.
I didn't find the well exclusion area shown for lot 7. I missed that.
Should be, I thought, should be in the slides up there, you should all see it. Well, I think 2 more, because the last one. Should be in blue, 7, can't read it from here.
It's right there, 7. And we don't have those exclusions on our.
Yeah, those are from the latest updates, the engineer comments we sent,
So we don't have that.
Thursday, yeah. That would be,
That's those circles around the.
yeah, it's in, it's right there, yeah. It's in underneath another easement, but it's included there on that one.
We've got the double septic system shown on the lots. We don't have that shown either. The old foundation.
Yep, there's
Lot 3, is it?
Yep. There's a 50
Is there any way to delineate that?
Yeah.
It's not even shown on here. You have building setbacks, but you don't show the foundation.
There is the building envelope has been modified there to provide a setback to that. It's just not labeled as old foundation, but there is this bump out.
We can't build in there, but what can they do with that foundation? Anything?
Nothing, yeah.
I didn't see it in a home analysis. Is it described in there that they can't do anything with it?
I think the only restrictions we have on it is that they can't build in that area.
So they could fill it in, create a lawn up there. I don't know what the purpose of saving that foundation was, I guess. I know it was on a historical register.
It came from the Historic Preservation Commission. They asked us to put a 50-foot setback radius around it.
Excuse me, Charlie.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we just going through this without addressing the threshold issue, just so that,
I just wanted to go through the list to see if there were other items other than the threshold that we should also include. Should we vote it down? We have to list the items that we're saying they're neglecting to have.
okay, I wasn't aware of that.
So that was my purpose, just kind of go through this to try to, and I don't, if others have got stuff written down and highlighted, we should at least talk about them. At least that was my thoughts. And then on the main DEP stormwater permit, there were easements that needed to be recorded within 60 days of the signing of that. Did they ever happen?
The plans aren't approved yet, so we'll have to do that and then just get it to them.
So does that null and void the DEP permit if that
No,
doesn't
we
happen?
usually do those under a transfer permit when that happens. It's gonna be transferred and then,
Because that had to do with buffers and all that stuff.
yeah, those will be all recorded once the final plans are set recorded.
The other thing I thought of as I looked at these, on the subdivision plans, I think we need signature blocks on every one of them. We have done that in the past. The actual subdivision plans.
Yes, correct. We can do that.
On all the plans. And I was wondering why on, it says sheet S10, that has all those individual pieces of property that we've been talking about. Show the property line at the center line of the road and an easement over existing lots. Why that didn't become part of the subdivision plan, because it has to do with the access. Shows where everybody's land is that's along the route.
I don't know, off the top of my head. We could certainly include it, we'd have to include it as a condition, that section.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parcels there, plus half the road.
Yeah,
They own.
the subdivision plan we had was from, where the road started and to the end. But that, we have to include that as a condition for they wanted that.
So your subdivision plan starts beginning of that first long parcel.
Correct, yeah, right about where, there's a little past the road begins, but it starts with the parcel. Overall, that shows a little bit farther back, yeah.
And the significant vernal pools not called out, it shows it physically, shows the setback, but it doesn't.
There's a note on the overall. We can make sure to add it onto the other one.
Sorry, could you speak up, please?
It shows it on the overall plan, but I can add it to sheet C1.1.
Yeah, the C11 is actually when we start seeing meets and bounds, so you can define the lots. First one's more like a overall. Phasing lines aren't shown. Are they shown on the new version?
They're gonna construct this in one phase, this
One
part.
big phase?
One big phase, yep. And then, the concept plan had the second phase are gonna come in with for another additional approval in the future, but, we're just gonna construct this all, well, construct it once.
In utility services, who's gonna convey the easement to CMP and telephone company and what the pole is gonna service this over underground?
I don't have that.
Individuals?
I don't have that on top of my head. I know it's gonna be run through the owner for the lines and then conveyed to the applicants, for the buyers.
All right, I've asked enough. Anybody else got anything they wanna talk about?
Yes.
All right.
We've talked about, the lack of sidewalk. We have a paved line, but in every other subdivision, we are requiring a sidewalk. And I worry with that curved road, with just that paved line, there's not sufficient protection for pedestrians.
Yeah, I remember back in 2023, we had that discussion, and it was decided by the board that it was fine to remove it and leave a 5-foot strip on the road, so it's a 16-foot wide lane with the paved line.
It was discussed, but it was never really voted on for that.
No, but, it was a general consensus, and then we've had a couple submissions with it in that way as well. There's not much housing on there, we don't feel it's an issue.
It has the potential for not only that section, but for the next section that comes. And then if there's ever any connection long-term to future development, there's a lot of potential for pedestrian traffic on that. And I would encourage that. I mean, that's what people like to do, is get out and walk. And that paved line doesn't do anything for pedestrian safety. And I really believe that there should be a sidewalk. Just like we have asked for in every other subdivision.
Since you joined the board, since I joined the board, so we have.
I was trying to remember what the discussions were on that. It had something to do with the plowing in the winter, if I know right.
I don't remember the details of all discussions, I remember, different
Vague
things.
remembrance of that.
I believe the multiple things were brought up as part of that conversation, plowing being one of them, the drainage changes due to curbing, especially on that hill. And I think there was also some debate on just the rural feel of it, trying to keep the road a little smaller without a sidewalk. But ultimately, the board did, I believe the board pitched this configuration to the applicant, and it was incorporated and approved in preliminary.
Yeah, it's on the cross section to approve.
It's been discussed every single time. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I remember at the last meeting, the applicant did ask that we not table it, that we decide one way or another so that they could move forward, however they were going to move forward. So in that light, I'd like to make a motion that we deny the application due to insufficient demonstration of the right title or interest, and therefore the application is deemed incomplete.
I'll second it for voting procedures.
that's right common interest for Cram Road,
Right,
not the portions that they own.
not the portions of the lawn.
Okay. And that's been seconded by Todd?
Yeah, I just wanna have a vote, make sure we get on the record.
Okay. Discussion by the board?
I agree with the motion. I think Scott's own words about this probably won't become a town road are pretty telling. You know, if the town can't possibly get it because it's too murky, how are we approving a whole subdivision over that? I just, so, I don't like the uncertainty. That's why I voted the other way in the Limerick meeting.
Anyone else? Seeing none.
So access rights are one thing, and then improving that road to a town standard and maintaining that, you know, is kind of like a separate right. So
I suspect that's true, but I'm not sure.
So, if we did deny it tonight, most likely the developer would, you know, bring the town to the court system, basically to prove that.
He wants to, yeah.
Conversely, we could approve it and then put that burden on the abutters that take issue to that. So then, essentially passing that legal burden on to the abutters. Kind of summarize it? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else agree with that?
I have a hard time swallowing that one, just because it's the applicant's job to show, to prove the right title and interest. And so either he has or he hasn't, and since it is still murky, I have a hard time putting that on the residents, because I think that is what we're here for.
Further discussion?
Am I allowed to say anything, or?
I'm in the middle of a motion at this point.
Okay.
I'd say no, not at this point.
Okay. I had to ask.
Yep. All right, no further discussion, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
Thank you for your time.
Can we do a 2-minute recess?
Request for a couple-minute recess?
Yeah.
Let the room clear out.
Okay.
All right, just to give you a chance for people to leave, we'll be in. Can't believe the guy is good.
Thank you very much for your time. Be able Very good, thank you. Yes, I wasn't here last show.
You just approved the thing across the way. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like typically it's what
Nice to meet you.
It's not available, it takes more research, maybe,
Eaton's across the border, it'd be nice.
yeah.
Yeah, right, I've seen this, 2 weeks ago. That's not good.
Next item on our agenda, PE Gubro LLC, 425 20 Eagle Road, map 6, lot 64, the Mosley property, site plan application for solar development. The applicant here. No correct information.
Hi, thank you everybody very much for being here today and for our presentation. My name is Rich Jordan. I work for, I'm the president of Flycatcher LLC. We're an environmental land use consulting company out of Yarmouth. I also work for Powell Energy, who is proposing the solar development on this project. I'm actually going to turn it over to Sean Murphy. He's our senior consultant at Flycatcher. He did most of the drafting of the application, has been working with Mr. Hastings, make sure that everything was covered here, but I would be available for questions. Since Sean has much more closer knowledge of the actual application, I will turn it over now.
Good evening. I'm going to respect your 3-minute limit by just simply saying many of you may have seen this project before. It was approved in 2020 as a much larger project. What we're coming forward to you today is essentially the same project. It's the same road, the same construction, the same height requirements. It's just 1 megawatt rather than 3 megawatts, so it's reduced in size. We're slightly closer now to the road than we were before. The array is 175 feet away from the road, and there's a 75-foot forested buffer between the road and the array. But visually, it's going to look exactly the same in terms of the average person's ability while driving by or even walking by the road to be able to see the project. The last meeting sort of was tough for me, so I'm going to just let you ask any questions you want at this point rather than sort of go on. And for the public, in addition to that, we do have a question map over there as well.
Thank you. Okay, anything, Scott?
That mostly covers it. Like I said, we've approved a solar array on this site, actually twice, because the CMP process was getting so long there, site plan expired. So it came back, I got it reapproved, and the CMP process is still taking so long, and various things have changed in that period, so now we're back with a different project. And they are continuing to meet or exceed all requirements of the ordinance. The buffer that he mentioned is larger than that required. They only require a 50-foot setback in this zone. The fire chief has reviewed this project. I've talked to him about it. He has no concerns and provided that the conditions of the approval are met. Then the only thing I think that the board really has to, I think you have seen that we had third-party review, we got comments back, and then as of today, which I think you got printed out in front of you, and maybe that came in even later, the Gore Palmer has signed off that all their concerns have been met. So they're...
The utility lines to be constructed underground.
Yeah, so the only remaining comment is just that to meet the ordinance, the board has to approve that. So that is where I was going to go next. It's not really an engineering comment, it's an ordinance requirement. For solar projects, they are technically required under the ordinance to have underground lines to the array. Now we have, I don't think the board has yet approved a solar project with buried lines because CMP doesn't like it. And they're really the end all be all on how you install power lines. The applicant, you're welcome to ask the applicant to provide more context to that, but we did grant that approval for this project in the previous various approvals. We've granted it for the Orchard Road solar project and for, I believe, this was before my time, but I believe it was for the one on Moody Road that's been constructed. They certainly redid lines along Moody Road that were above ground. So I think that is one element the board needs to just make sure that they've discussed. It's not I don't believe it's a formal waiver, but you do need to discuss that point and affirm that that is an acceptable way of installing the lines.
If I remember right, they CMP, I say they established a service pole on site and then dropped from that underground to the transformer.
Not for this project, it may have been another project. What the ordinance says is that the applicant's required to do reasonable efforts as determined by you, the planning board. So we worked our way backwards in our response to Grow Palmer, which was our connection point, according to CMP, is across the road. Going underneath the road would be difficult with DOT, it's a state-owned road. Then CMP requires we have at least 4 poles that they own from then on, and they maintain. So for some period up to there, it can't be buried. And at the point where we would be able to start burying is around when the road starts to curve and nobody's gonna see it anyway. So I think the point of the ordinance is reasonable in the sense of trying to sort of minimize the visual impacts. There's no visual impacts associated with this particular setup.
So CMP wants 4 service poles on your lot.
Yep.
Okay. That's similar to Orchard Road.
It's what they're requiring for all solar projects.
Just to help me visualize that a little bit more, sorry to be in the neck, but, so we have the 4 poles that go in, the road starts to curve, and then how many more poles are there in that solar array?
I don't know the exact number, I could go and count the map and come back again.
Because eventually, hopefully, some of that infill will be developed, at some point in time.
I'm unaware of the owner actually talking about doing that. We're improving the road sufficient for maintenance by a solar facility, which is 3 or 4 times a year type operation. It's not expected that that's going to increase traffic after construction's done. So I can't speak to what future people may be doing there.
So you're tying these poles along Bonnie Eagle Road, or are you tying it to poles that are on that 3-phase line that runs across country?
Bonnie Eagle Road.
Bonnie Eagle
Right
Road.
across the street, yeah, right across from access road. We've got the field across the street, kind of where the power line runs through, the big power line.
Yeah.
Right there on the edge of the field.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say, to future development too, I mean, it's really wet to the southwest of the project. There's the national wetland inventory map of that area. It's also, that's actually the gray floodplain, and then there's a lot of wetland down in there, so. In addition to CMP, it would be tricky to do any other developments down in that area.
It's the bottom of that hill, it stays wet.
Yeah, can you see the cat down off on that?
If I'm counting it right, there's 3 more beyond the 4.
Okay, thank you.
Was the existing snowmobile trail being rerouted?
There are 2, the existing road that we're using, or the one to the north?
Oh yeah, I see there's another one, yeah.
Yeah. Can't remember, the one in the north, would not go there. You know, the access road is staying, the landowner he uses the woodlot, he does his own harvesting for his mill operation.
Yeah.
So we are at some point gonna have to split up where he's gonna be able to continue using that road, so we're gonna share the curb cut. So whatever he allows now, as long as it's not in our fence, it's up to him to maintain it, continue to allow.
Okay. But it doesn't look like the one over to the other side. It doesn't look like you're disturbing that one either, really?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, I think recently we did shift the fence to make sure it was not, I don't know if it's, I don't know if that one's active, but we saw it on the aerial and decided to try to avoid it, so. Avoid that, having a discussion later.
Yep.
I have a comment, a question.
Sure.
Please describe to me the fencing that's going around the solar farm. Height, type,
Yeah.
screening, no screening. Can you
Uh,
describe to me what your plans are?
Sure, I'll start backwards. So no screening, because you can't see it from much, so we're not planning on like plastic slats or anything like that. Is this, sorry if that, is the fix not wildlife fence, or is this a steel chain link? So typically we use what they call a wildlife fence. When we reach out for comments from Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, over the last 2 years, their standard for solar farms has been to use this wooden post, so you can drive in cedar posts. It's basically just like a cattle fence, it's 7 feet tall. Either has all the holes are about 8 inches, or it's got smaller holes on top and bigger holes on bottom to sort of allow critters to get through and get out if they get in. I think it's 4 to 6 inches off the ground, similarly to allow raccoons or whatever to get in, they can get out.
Well, the reason I asked, the fact you're not gonna have any screening gets to the root of why I asked the question. The last solar farm that well, not the last one, but one of the ones in the past on Moody Road has a chain link fence with this fabric screening. I go to the dump once a week, right, so I drive by it all the time. And the screening is ripped and looks like crap. Almost every week that I drive by, it's a different section.
And Frank, I think there's buffering there too, but there's nothing
Right.
there's nothing there. There's like a few trees.
Right, it's very,
As buffer.
it's very sparse.
It's very sparse.
So anyway, the fact that you've decided to not put any screening in the cyclone fence, I mean, negates my question. That's the reason why I asked the question was, I've seen something that we've approved and it doesn't last. It's almost like every other week I see a different section that the screening is ripped off or someone's made little holes in it. So anyway, I won't belabor that yet.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, when I first started working in solar, it was probably about 12 or 15 years ago down in Massachusetts. We were building on landfills. And because you could see it, everybody was putting those plastic slats in, and the neighbors were kind of like, okay, cool, nothing changed, except now I see plastic. 2 winters, it started to disintegrate and come apart. Now, I know they've got different materials now, and things always get better, but if we have to add screening in that situation, plant trees. Stay with the plastic.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah. So what's the distance from the road to where you would see the edge of the?
So clearing starts, clearing starts 75 feet away from the road, and the arrays themselves are 145 feet beyond that. So there's a solid 75 feet of forested land. If you're driving up and down that road right now, we're not changing the character of the forested area within 75 feet of the roadway.
The reason I ask is similar to Frank's concern, because we allowed a storage facility to be built with natural buffering, and if you drive by it now, there is no natural buffering. And, I would think I would never do that again, because you can say what you want for buffering to make sure it actually is buffered versus just have all the natural buffering that really doesn't.
So normally, and I can't speak to another applicant, it's not.
Yeah,
me,
so
but what I
I'm
can tell you
trying to
is that-
picture where this is really, kind of by, is it right
Just
behind
beyond
Rogers?
Rogers Mill is,
Scott's
Yeah.
probably
back down over the hills on the
You
right hand
bring up a
side,
street
beyond his
view of
pasture.
what it looks like.
Getting down towards Monterey.
Yeah.
Hopefully not in
Yeah,
fall.
Appreciate it.
yeah,
What happened on Moody Road though is they clear cut right up to the property line.
yeah, so,
They didn't leave the
it's
buffer.
not back there that I'm worried about, it's along that stretch right there.
You're using his access road at the bottom of the hill, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, across the field, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go, look at that, technology is.
So, yeah, that's the access road
Yeah.
as it is now. That's the existing trees.
That's a fair amount of that's a fair amount of trees as a buffer.
And I'd also, I think it's fair to note, you can even see it in this picture. The land slopes away from the road, so the panels will be below road level, which I think what we ran into with what the other one you're talking about is the road goes, the land slopes up, and so the buildings ended up being somewhat above the buffer.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, the land sloping away down to those wetlands.
I appreciate all these comments in this discussion, so thank you.
There's no other questions. Happy to sit down.
Board members, any more? Not? Is there a motion to open this up to the public?
I'll make a motion to open up for public comment, Mr. Chair.
I'll second
Moved and seconded to open it up to public comment. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Anyone from the public like to speak?
Come ahead.
I'm ready.
Maureen Hill from Lovridge Road, 20 Lovridge Road. I just think, you know, the problem with Moody Road is, you know, as you said, we just didn't have enough, there's just not enough buffering there. And I feel for the people who live on the other side of the road. And I think, you know, whatever happens with the 75 feet, it just seems like you're gonna have to be really aware of what's in there, in that 75 feet to keep it intact and probably enhance it, you know, possibly. So, I mean, we all believe in solar, but we have neighbors who, you know, want to live in a place that doesn't always show the power. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Seeing no further public comment, I make a motion to close public comment.
Second?
Sean, seconded. Discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Very good. Talked about this. Completeness. We got a site plan application, site plan, option agreement, commissioning plan, financial capacity letter, IFW and historic preservation letters, operations and maintenance plan. Assuming we need a motion to deem the application complete.
I make a motion, Mr. Chair. I move to find the application for 425 Bonnie Eagle Road, map 6, lot 64 to be complete.
it. I'll second
Moved and seconded, find the application for 425 Bonnie Eagle Road, map 6, lot 64 to be complete. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. And then we can go down through the site plan criteria.
Mr. Chair, do we have to make a motion on the utility lines? The above ground thing? Sorry.
Either motion or we got to include it in the finding of facts.
That's raising, sorry, I just want to make sure we're clear.
What is the best route there?
The board just needs to make a finding that reasonable effort was made and that this is an acceptable thing. I don't
work in the CMP.
Like, it's not worded as such that you have to grant a waiver or something like that. So if you are more comfortable doing that in a formal motion, then by all means do it. That is definitely the most robust way.
underground utilities throughout the site though.
Yes.
So the only thing is the service line going back to the street that CNP, or I assume it's CNP, is working with you on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, as you said, so it would go to, everything would be underground to the transformer, step-up inverter from DC to AC, and then the step-up transformer from that, it goes above ground over to the switch, and then they call it go up, but it's really just like the CNP's remote control switch. Meter, switch, so it's 2 poles with reverse tools on each, so.
All right.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to make a motion just for that specific thing that's in the page 2 of our memoranda? The applicant is requesting that we allow them to install the utility lines from Route 35 just to the project entirely above ground.
Along that existing road, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, nothing to do
I'll
with.
second that if that's a motion.
It is a motion, I'm just saying, to assume that that will deal with the issue, absolutely.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Very good. That's been addressed. And then vehicular safety, there's not a whole heck of a lot of vehicular activity once it's constructed, as I read through the application.
So yeah, we'll submit an application to DOT because it is an existing curb cut, but it's a change of use of the site.
Right.
So they'll make us do a traffic movement plan, so signage, spotters, that type of thing. So we'll do
During
that in town once we get it. Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're gonna upgrade that existing culvert, as I read.
Yes, yeah, I think we should, at least temporarily widen that access use so we can get lots of trucks in just during the construction. Construction of these projects is running about 3 to 5 months, depending on how long it takes to cut and the time of year. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
can we talk about signage, like what kind of signage is typical?
We typically, unless it's like a town or a public project, we typically don't put like road, street frontage signage. During construction, there's obviously this warning signage, and usually like when we first start clearing, just to let the clearing contractor know where he's supposed to go, there's some signs put up. Once the site's built, the only signage is generally on the fencing, which is just required by safety code, that electric safety code, just, this is an electric generating facility, no access, those types of things. And then there's contact information on the gate, things like that, so if there's ever anyone needs to get in touch with the operator, they can call that number. Generally, they'll do street signage on these.
Yeah, okay, good. So that you won't have that in this one?
No, it's not on the plan, we're not doing that.
I think usually now, Scott, don't we have at least the street address sign for public safety?
Yeah, public safety might require just a number at the end, so that if there is some kind of emergency that E911 can find, that they know that access road is your access road.
You know, that's a good point, yeah, sometimes we'd rather put up dummy mailboxes, so, if we get that request, it's easy enough to do.
I think a couple of places in town would just, there's a sign, like a street sign that.
Yeah, right across the outpost, there's one.
Yeah,
Those
426
blue flag
Bound
stakes.
One Eagle Road or something like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Very simple.
Yeah, and I don't think Public Services has asked for that, or Emergency Services, so if you guys want to put that as a condition, that's fine with me, to mark the street number.
And I think we'll leave that up to public safety and the building, the CEO, like if they want that, then you put it in.
We'll have to give you an address anyways.
Correct, yes.
The decommission number, the 49,950, that's an agreed upon.
Yes, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but
It was in there, it was in there.
Let me just clarify, the 49 is the number that we've given to the DEP for their decommissioning permit process. We understand that the town has a requirement that number, it's 150% of that number is what we've given you for a bond.
yeah, so it would be
But
half
we didn't
again.
we didn't want a situation where you had one decommissioning number and they had another one, and it just led to confusion. So we understand that it's a condition of the permit that we provide that to 150 or whatever numbers in front of you.
Okay. Yeah. Excuse me, I took the 49,950 out of your application.
Yeah, but like they said, the actual amount would be 150% of that.
Some of that, yeah.
And the discussion of signage did make me review, and I think in my various edits, I cut out accidentally that in condition 3 was talking about the fire chief review, the access. There is a requirement for that contact number signage on the fencing of, like, at the entrance of the thing. So not at the road, but just that there be a small sign on the fence of the actual array that has 24-hour emergency contact number and ownership information on it.
They have to provide a lockbox too, right?
And yeah, there would be,
That's
I
addressed.
believe that's in the application already. They're going to provide a Knox box.
No
So I
reason
would
to
just
bother.
amend condition 3 just to say signage installed per 181 49.34F. And that's that emergency contact signage.
Or 181.
49.34F. I don't want to look it up. That's why I had to flip through the pages.
I will point out in our application, under the solar ordinance section, F, we say there'll be no signage other than the required emergency contact.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's why I took that out of the condition, because they already addressed it in the application, so okay, don't worry.
Drop that part. It's not in the form-based code area, so the architectural design is not necessary. Looks like we've got all of the site plan criteria addressed. Is there a motion to approve the site plan?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we move the board grant the site plan approval with conditions below under the provisions of the Standish Land Use Code for the application submitted by Flycatcher LLC on behalf of the applicant PE Rurum from the large-scale solar array at 425 Bon Eagle Road, which is Route 35, to the finding that it meets the requirements in Chapter 181, Article VIC, which is Roman numerals, regulations concerning solar energy systems, 181-73 site plan criteria, and all other relevant parts of the Standish ordinances with certain conditions. So I'm gonna,
Those are the 5 as listed.
yes.
Second.
Moving second to grant approval of site plan. Further discussions by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair? Yes. I'd like to acknowledge that I am a current employee of St. Joseph's College, so I think it would be appropriate for me to sit this one out.
Okay, thank you. We don't need a vote on that? Minutes, no?
You only need to vote if you're forcing someone to acknowledge a conflict. Right. Voluntary.
If they do it voluntarily.
So, next item is Westerly Way, map 20, lot 8, subdivision application for 3-lot subdivision. Seymour, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is Jim Seymour, civil engineer and project manager with Sebago Technics. Tonight I'm here for 7631 Mass Landing LLC to present a 3-lot subdivision located off Westerly Way in Standish. We were before the board almost a year ago this time for a pre-application to review this project for 2 lots. There was quite a dialogue with neighbors and the board at that time about improvements to Westerly Way and to how we were going to develop this property. In the time that's expired in that year, we have since filed an amended site location permit with the DEP, and that explained why that had to happen. This property was approximately 13 acres, which came out of St. Joseph's College holdings. There were no activities originally on this property, and so it was in a site location permit due to the college's development. When we took this out, we retracted all the phosphorus credits, tried to clean the land so it was basically a clean division or separation of property from St. Joseph's to this developer. In doing so, the DEP put a condition on the end of that, though, that if this property were to be divided as we presented, it would have to go back to the DEP for amended site location. So we have filed that back in August. We have not heard much, as probably you understand, the DEP is slow these days. So we're still waiting to hear. It has been accepted. It's in the process. We have not heard from the engineers yet. Today I also received from Scott the Grove Palmer memorandum, which had to do with some of the roadway and stormwater concerns, and I will go over that a little bit. So one of the other changes that happened is we originally had 2 lots on this plan. In reviewing it with our surveyors, we determined that because it had shorefront property on Sebago Lake, the length of the lot and the width, when we had 2 lots, it would qualify as a spaghetti lot because it was exceeded the 5-to-1 ratio of lot to length width, which is a shoreline zoning criteria, but because the front does fall in the shoreline zone, you have to look at the entire parcel. So in doing so, the owners reluctantly decided to break off a 3rd lot. In doing so, we have to access that to gain frontage, so that is why we have this kind of sneaking right away into the property. So we're here tonight for a preliminary discussion. We understand that you may want to do a public hearing or a site walk. Wonderful. We're ready to do that if you are. The lots are sized. Lot 1, which is the top lot furthest away from Sebago Lake, is 4.2 acres. Lot 2, which is the thin one on the north side, is 3.2 acres. And Lot 3, which is on the southerly side of this parcel, is 5.9 acres. We have provided DEP with stormwater calculations, as this is probably the most concerning to DEP. The areas you see on that plan in green are designated wooded buffers for treatment of the private road that would be going into this. That private road is designed to be gravel, 16 feet wide. The long strip coming down in the middle of that lot is for the long driveway where the 2 lots on the shore would have access. These properties would have individual wells, septic systems, and utilities coming from the westerly way. And looking at Grove Palmer, which I don't know, did they receive that today or not?
I think, do we have a guy who print that out for them?
Yeah, there was one paperwork on
Got
this.
it tonight.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so they got it, they got it. If anything less.
Same time I did.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so just quickly going through that, we understand, we anticipate that we'll address these comments from Grove Palmer in our next meeting. The biggest takeaway I have is they'd like to have the road stationed with stationing so they can understand the locations of things. The road grade at its steepest is approximately 6%, so it's between 5 and 6%, which is a nice easy grade going down. Everything shoots from the right-hand side of the page to the left side going down to the lake. The max slope would be 5.5 to 6%. We will be following Chapter 500 rules because this is a site location. I would just request that although I see Grove Palmer stormwater comments here, I'd like to, if we could, I'd like to wait till we have at least the first round of DEP comments because they're going to be reviewing the exact same items.
There's a little digital picture, much easier to make the full unfoldment.
With that said, one of the things I would like to also add to the plan at our next hearing would be a table, because this is in the shoreline zone. I'd like to present the board with a table outlining the coverages and area within the shoreline zone, so the board knew that we appropriately addressed the coverages for the shoreline zone and the setbacks, because that was one of the comments, is they wanted us to clearly label the 100-foot setback, because no structure could be within that 100-foot setback from Sebago Lake. So with all that said, we're here this evening as our first preliminary hearing with you, and we'll answer any questions and go forth.
Bob, would you like to add anything?
I think, we're about all in the same place. There are a number of things that need to be addressed going forward that has already been brought up by the applicant in terms of the engineering review, shoreline information, and those points. So I think we're all on the same page here. This is a good place to start. We're not gonna decide anything tonight, would be my recommendation. I think the board should consider tonight whether they want to have a site walk, so we get that scheduled as quickly as we can. And I think I do want to bring up one of the major elements that the board's gonna have to make a decision on is granting a waiver of some of the road requirements and specifically the private ways and being built to full public road standard that is required in subdivision, and this is being proposed to be built to one of the private road standards because it's only servicing 3 houses. It also is coming off of a private road, and so this is some overlap of things we talked about earlier tonight. I think this is much more explicitly in that the road they are building is not being built to public standards. So they do need a waiver from that requirement, 18197C. Now the waiver requirements for that explicitly include if there is a lack of connecting facilities adjacent to or proximity to the proposed subdivision, and given that there is no public road connection to this, I think that is exactly what that provision is for. And that I think it was a reasonable request that this short length of road serving a limited number of units can be built safely to the standard that we allow for that type of road if it wasn't a subdivision. But that is something we'll have to deal with before we do any approvals, which again we don't necessarily want to do here tonight. That was the only major issue came up in review. I think Charlie had called me up today to ask me some questions, and I think we do one that I want to put to the board, to the applicant, to look a little closer at some of the dimensions of the lots, particularly the shore frontage, and make sure that we're in compliance with what we need there. And
we discussed the coverages of the shoreline zone.
And yeah, I think that ties right into what you brought up here, making sure compliance with the shoreline zone elements are going to come in. But
And lot width, frontage and lot width.
Yep.
200.
so we've reviewed this I reviewed this with Public Works, who is in agreement with me on that, the connections element there, and that this is acceptable to build to private road standards, and to Public Safety, who is also comfortable with this lot layout and road configuration.
And if I may, we do have, I heard earlier evening, one of your other items, we do have clear title access rights to Westerly Way for utilities and access that was deeded from St. Joe's, who owns the property from our property line out to White's Bridge Road. In addition, the section of road that we're coming off Westerly Way is also 16 feet. So, but St. Joe's did improve up to the ball fields, that road up to 20 or 22 feet, I believe, paved. It is paved all the way up to where we break off.
Are you planning on paving the private way?
We are not, unless the board so pushes us to do that. The applicant would like to leave that gravel.
I was just asking.
Yep. DEP considers gravel and pavement the same for treatment purposes, so.
Yeah. What type of houses are they planning on?
Style homes.
These are just the estate type homes, very well built, large homes. We have included, I believe, on our plan, a footprint of 3,200 square feet for the footprint for that structure, along with, in colored gray there, well, maybe you can't see it, but there's some gray outlines there of the driveway and parking areas, so these will be large homes. And again, that's why we originally wanted these lots to be approximately 6.5 acres apiece, because they did want a large piece of land for these estates.
How do you get the frontage for the lots 2 and 3? You take a frontage on the lake, you take a frontage on the road?
On the private road.
I can see where 1 has got it, I see where 2 might have it. How do you get on 3? I see them on 3, but not 2.
He's got the, sorry, Patrick's got it also here.
Looks like we got about 50.
Two would be a back lot, I believe.
Back lots have to have a 50-foot wide strip as part of the private way.
I believe it's to get to the lot, it has to be within the lot.
If the board wants, I mean, we can obviously turn that right away and continue down, we have plenty of land. You know, there is an easement down through there 50 feet wide for that shared driveway as well, so. But the approved part of the private
You
road.
need the 50-foot access provided for the back lots, I don't think it doesn't necessarily be on it.
Isn't the definition of a lot 200 feet of frontage? You need 200 feet of lot width at the building?
At the building?
That's what it says.
I do think that we need to clarify this, a little bit of exactly what this is and what level the board needs to deal with the approval. I mean, I don't think this layout is against the ordinance, but we may need to do some tweakings on backlots as they apply to subdivisions. Like, some of this has been the change in how this project's been laid out from the original 2 lots configuration to the 3 lot, has led to some elements that were good under the first one, but are now a little questionable in the second one, so we gotta, I think, maybe I will sit down with the applicant and we'll go over that and nail out exactly what we're doing here.
Because lot width is described as the measured at the point where the building is closest to the right of way.
And I think the lot width is gonna be a little interesting as we're talking about the differing definitions between lot width in 181 on land use and lot width in shoreland, which is more concerned with the shore frontage versus the road frontage. So again, as long as the shore frontage, we have that one, I think we can massage this plan in a way that is really a minor difference from what we're seeing here, but technically meets those requirements.
Absolutely.
Whether that's the road has to swing down into the 2 lots to get them direct frontage, or we clarify that back lot. And whether we clarify whether the board needs to do any, include that in that private road waiver to get a back lot, because we don't typically see those in subdivisions.
Land use standards for residential use is 200 feet per dwelling unit on the water.
Yeah.
So again, I have no issue sitting down with Scott, going through this, clarifying, labeling things, making sure that, again, this has been from day one, a little bit of a different knuckleball subdivision. So I have no issue sitting down with Scott, going through that. I think, our anticipation this evening would be that we would like to be able to at least establish a site walk while the weather's still decent, get that piece of it done so the board has an understanding of what the property looks like.
I only brought it up because they're gonna be fairly substantial homes, and we don't need them to be going to a closing after it's all built to find out there's an issue.
And because it is a site location under the DEP, there's no technical statutory time limit. So we're kind of on the bottom of their pile, so it could be a while, so we have time to get this ready.
And I guess that is a clarification I'd like for you. You said you didn't want to come back to some of the engineering comments, so you had some comments from DEP, so you'd address them at the same time.
I think some of these comments are gonna come back from DEP, but some of them may be, the DEP may have a different opinion on those, but I will do my best to address the ones that
So
were.
I just, from that, I think maybe if you give us some direction, and then the board's got to think about how you want to craft a table motion to this, on when we're coming back to this.
I assume that because it's a subdivision, that the town would want the DEP approval prior to the final.
We absolutely want that final, but we do usually address the town engineer's comments in preliminary, so I think we need to think a little bit about how that time
And I
works.
expect the DP, the engineers of DP have been very good about giving us back comments. It's the rest of the process that takes forever, unfortunately. So I am expecting engineering comments probably within the next month.
So maybe we just think maybe we give you to December or something to come back.
We could do the site walk, we'll do that before the meeting on the 3rd.
Sure.
I mean, we're pushing the window if we get much beyond that on sidewalks.
Right.
Would that work for people, try to do it? I mean, it's, well, how is the site out there for walking and looking at? Are there paths to get around?
There are paths to get around, this particular layout, we have to lay this particular layout out. It's mature trees in there, so it's not like there's a lot of thick understory for the most part. And we can obviously cut or weave a path down through there. There's remnants of the old trail that go through there as well. But we would, you know, we'd lay it out, but it's not horrible walking down through there. There's not a lot, it's a lot of mature
If
growth.
there's a decent trail for people to walk on, we could see the flags where the center line of the road is. I think that would be adequate. Do we need to see roughly where the buildings are going? Fellow board members?
I mean, typically in subdivision, we just ask for building envelopes, not actual building locations.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, somebody threw a stake, a flag around,
Yeah.
around the trees and
I
somewhere
would,
in this area.
I would guess the board's gonna want to see the center line of that driveway that accesses those two lots, and then maybe we get a 100-foot marker on each lot from off the shoreline, and that'll give us a building envelope area anyway.
Yeah, that's
very basic.
Yeah, I think we could put a flag in the middle of one of those building envelopes to give you an idea of roughly where it sets. To your point, yeah, we'd want to give you, I anticipate we'd be going down that long driveway to those two lakefront lots.
Do we know where roughly the walking paths are? Is it somewhere near that road?
They're higher up.
Higher up?
Once you get down in here, it's all just kind of natural paths. There's nothing more. The deer have done a pretty good job.
Harvesting?
So you're thinking, Charlie, of doing this before, right before the next meeting on
So
November
our-
2nd?
Yeah, like make the same time frame, do 4:30,
The unfortunate
5 o'clock?
issue with that is the time change is November 2nd,
Oh, it's, okay.
and so sunset is 4:30 on the 3rd.
Okay, so bring your headlines. All right. Make a very interesting sidewalk.
Excuse me, sir, is there a possibility of making a comment before you vote on this?
We're not gonna vote tonight, we're just gonna schedule a site walk.
Okay, well, I still have a chance to speak?
Every meeting will be,
Well, will I have a chance to speak tonight? Takes 3
Up to the
minutes, I've
board.
been sitting here for 2.5 hours.
everyone all right with that?
Sure.
All right.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. The name's Joe McKenna, live at 181 Hardside Road, I'm one of the abutters up there. And my question is this, when the land was given by the Marshalls, who used to live on Whitesbridge Road to St. Joseph's College, there's a stipulation in their deed that that path you're talking about is a right-of-way that has to exist from Whitesbridge Road down to the lake. The language in the deed says that in perpetuity, that is to remain in the possession of their family. And I'd like to know if that's been considered here, if you're building over that or through it, or if you even are aware of it.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
So having worked on St. Joseph's projects in the past, that 10-foot wide easement was along the property line of Hearthside, and it did go from the Marshall property down to the shore. It's a 10-foot wide footpath. St. Joe's College purchased the Marshall property, and in doing so eliminated that right, because they own all the property that easement was to benefit.
I have the deed that the Marshalls, I have the complete deed that the Marshalls had with St. Joseph's, and it states right in it, that the grantor reserves the right to that property in perpetuity.
Got step to
Again, I do have a copy of the deed that shows, this is the deed between the Marshalls and St. Joseph's College that states right in it that right-of-way that you're talking about walking down for your sidewalk, that's the,
It's not the right, sorry.
that's the path, and that is supposed to be held in perpetuity in the family. Now, I don't know if you made any arrangements with the family, but.
Could you get a copy of that for Scott for us, and he can circulate a copy to us and to Jim?
Is that right? Sure.
So that right of way that is on is not the easement. That easement, like I said, was dissolved by St. Joe's, and we'll have a conversation with our attorneys as well.
Get something for them.
Yes, exactly, so, because I don't believe that was included in the deed that our client purchased that property, that deed was dissolved, so, but we will talk to the attorneys and resolve that. But that easement was clearly down the sideline, and even if it did exist, it's between the building envelope and the Hearthside property. It hugs that whole stone wall that goes down as a property line.
I'm not following where it is. Can you just show me, please?
I'll show you on this one.
Okay.
Pink line. That easement line, because this is the area that's, is the field, now for St. Joe's. That runs down, the Marshall property's up further up where I am, and it runs down the sideline here, all the way to the shore. Originally, that's where it went. There's a stone wall there, it's a property line, and that 10-foot was an offset from that stone wall. It went from the Marshall, back of the Marshall property, when they lived there, to give them rights over St. Joseph's property for a footpath down the shore. The Marshalls sold that property to St. Joe's, so St. Joe's controls it all now. The Marshalls have.
Well, Scott make that decision, he's got the paperwork. He
Well,
can
it'll
decide.
be decided by an attorney, I think. I don't think Scott wants to do it.
We'll get a statement from you on it, and we'll review it and make sure that we are not infringing, to the best of our knowledge.
Yeah. Because I believe that was resolved during the purchase of the land from St. Joe's.
Does it benefit anybody in Hearthside?
No, just the Marshalls.
It's just, I don't know, let's just be talking, it doesn't benefit any of us. It's a path that's been used, I've been there 35 years, and it's the access to the lake for snowmobiles. People walk down there all the time from the college. It's cross-country skiing, access to the lake, and it's been the same road for the 35 years that I've been there. And it's a very clear-cut trail through the forest. If you do your walk, you'll see that when you go.
And again, I don't know if that trail is, if he's talking about, perfectly lines up with what was originally as an easement. I think things have moved and changed over time. People follow a path, not necessarily an easement, so just want to be clear about that.
Okay. So, third doesn't work. We have to do it on Saturday?
And if people could do it during the day, then, or if we want to do it after, in the evening before that week, like before the time change, like the one we just scheduled.
I'm usually done hunting by this morning, and I gotta go back again at 2, so.
That's Halloween week, so Friday being Halloween, we have one more.
Do we wanna do it prior to the 3rd, if we're gonna have a meeting on the 3rd?
We do it whenever we can fit it in. I'd say we want to do it prior to the 3rd, just because that's when we have the daylight, unless people can do one during the day.
Right now, I don't have anything for the last week of October, so.
What about the week of the 20th?
Friday and Saturday is youth hunting, but I don't think they'll be on the school property. It's not school property anymore. That's correct.
Anybody free the week of the 20th after?
Well, we're doing the sidewalk at Pine Tree Estates on the 20th.
Yeah, but we can't do it that day, it'll be too dark.
Yeah, could get to it, yeah.
My retirement schedule is free, so feel free to pick any day you want.
There's a town hall meeting on the 21st with form-based code stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do the 21st after 4.
I'm not around that week. Frank can handle it. Give him a big stick.
Wednesday or Thursday,
Wednesday, thumbs up.
22nd?
Mm-hmm.
Around what time? Is it after the 30th?
What's good for you?
About the time. Well, I drive back from Saco around that time, so.
How about the 22nd?
4:30, is that what you're thinking?
Or 5.
Well, 5 would be easier for me, but
Yeah.
it won't be getting dark.
Still before daylight,
don't think we're gonna be there. It looks like sunset's not till 6 on that day.
Are you do that?
5 o'clock on the 22nd, is that what I hear?
Yeah.
Where will we park?
There is a turnout right there, or we can park on the side of Westerly Way, actually.
There's not
Yeah,
room.
there's enough room on the shoulder of Westerly Way. And there is a turnout just before this. We'll put some stakes out so you know where to park.
Worst comes to worst, I'm sure we can park down near the athletic fields and
Correct.
walk up. But
You
We'll,
park at my house and walk through the woods, right?
we'll definitely, we'll send a follow-up email as it gets closer, reminding everybody. We'll send one out also
Yeah.
probably tomorrow just to build pockets. But we usually send one out like a couple days before and then make sure we connect on thoughts on parking.
Does lot number 1 have, lake access?
No. Only 2 and 3 have access. Unless they want to give permission to lot 1.
That's quite a tease.
I know the owners originally wanted to have 2 lots, but because of the spaghetti lot rule, they couldn't.
They're just gonna have to get to know their neighbors really well. Or be the same owner.
Or rent the slips. I don't know, they may have a private agreement afterwards, or maybe the owners decide during this process, they do grant some kind of easement over the property.
Oh, it's gonna be an HOA, right? So it's gonna be-
There'll be an HOA, yes.
Talking.
December meeting, or whenever the client is ready.
Yeah, we've been bitten at least once before on a tabling to whenever the client's ready, and then the client isn't ready for
Months.
6 months more, and that becomes an issue
Well,
with
is December a good one to shoot for? You can always cancel it if you're not ready.
I'm sure my client would like November. We'll be pushed pretty hard to get this moving along, but if December is the best the board can do.
I mean, I think we can do November, it's just, is it worth it if you're not
Which
gonna
on
have
November?
comments back?
I guess the question would be, you and I need to get together soon.
And I think a lot of the stuff we can do is gonna be the engineering comments and what the board is comfortable leaving for final with DP. What town engineer comments they're willing to leave till finals. Usually we try and settle those.
I haven't really dug into
Right.
that, just on the periphery, so I think we can address many of those comments, and just some of them may overlap, is my only concern. So,
Will we table this until the November meeting?
If the applicant's comfortable with November, then November sounds great.
A second?
Yeah, second.
Patrick, so seconded. Moved and seconded to table this of the November meeting. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? And I'll be back for the November meeting. Thank you. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Your second? I'll second it. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. All day long. Wow. Jack is ready to kick. I can tell.
Good to hear from you. You guys could do some.
I was hoping nobody would like to read this all into the record.